morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am here with wonderful, wonderful news if you're a fan of Psychic Pokemon. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Psychic Pokemon just got so much better. Like, ridiculously much better. Like, over the top much better. Now, first of all, we have got ourselves a little bit of the old Cresselia. Now, this is interesting because we've actually already had it confirmed that Cresselia is going to be a pre-release promo. We know that for a fact. I told you this the other day, which is kind of weird and interesting. Now we've actually seen it, and we know what it does. And not to put too fine a point on it, but you know that Volcanion, which has been an absolute staple in Fire decks and has been absolutely great for the entire time it's legal and is about to rotate out? Yeah, it's that, but for Psychic decks. Let me explain. So our translation here comes from kind of the lovely Antoine Boulet, except we've actually got the English text of this because it was in that app that told us that it was in fact going to be a pre-release promo. So what we've got here, in terms of stats, is 120 HP, which is a little bit low. We'd like it to be higher. A retreat cost of 1, which gives free retreat with U-turn board, which is quite nice. For like 5 minutes, that's still going to be legal with this. A resistance to fighting, which is good. Lots of fighting decks around. Having said that, take something like Rapid Strike Urshifu. Well, they do 150. So time you take away with resistance, they do 120. You know how I said I'd want a bit more? I want 130, not 120. This is a big reason why. And weakness to darkness, honestly, not a big deal. The best little darkness Pokemon that was going to do a little bit of damage is Spiritomb, and Spiritomb's about to rotate out, so on the one hand, you're really weak to Spiritomb. On the other hand, you really don't need to worry about Spiritomb for very much longer. But it really is the attacks here. And like I say, they are going to seem very familiar. For one Psychic Energy here, and like I say, we are very much talking setup here. We are all over the Psychic Energy. What it does is you search your deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. If you go second and it is your first turn instead, you search for up to 3 Psychic Energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Gee whiz, ladies and gentlemen. Does that sound just a little bit familiar? It is exactly the same as Volcanion's Flare Starter, but for Psychic Energy rather than Fire. And I don't need to spend a huge amount of time telling you how ridiculous this is going to be, because we know it. Psychic decks are going to be so much better with this. You are going to try and go second as much as you can, and you are going to get free extra energy on the field nice and early. And then, of course, we need to go back to a card I showed you yesterday, Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, which I told you was one of the best, well, the best card we'd seen since Zoroark GX. The best card we'd seen since October 2017. It's been a day. I've had a good old think about it. I've chatted about it with a whole bunch of me mates, and I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, my opinion has not changed. I still consider that to be the single best Pokemon card that has been revealed in the past 4 years. But one of the things that, well, it's got 2 things, right? It's got an ability that lets you attach a Psychic Energy to a bent Psychic Pokemon and draw 2 cards. Again, that is nuts. And an attack, which for 3 energy minimum, does 10 damage, plus 30 damage for each of your Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon in play. So basically what that means is you want to pile a whole bunch of energy on and then smash. Well, it sure would be nice to turn 1, before you've got rolling, before you've been able to really do anything, it would be really nice if you were able to get free energy out of your deck and onto the field, which firstly helps you to set up, and secondly means that there are an extra free energy on, which means an extra 90 damage for all of your Shadow Rider Calyrex for the game. Oh, hang on a second. That is exactly what we've got here, and that's kind of my point. In any Psychic deck, this is going to be a very, very nice option, just for getting energy in the early game. But more than that, in a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX deck, it actually somehow takes what was already a redonkulous card and makes it even better. Yeah, this one is going to see a huge amount of play. In the same way that you saw Volcanion in basically every good fire deck, expect that to be the case here. Psychic decks have been hurting for energy acceleration since Malamar rotated. When you combine Cresselia and Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, they have now got the best energy acceleration in the game. It's getting a bit dumb. And like I say, Cresselia is going to be a pre-release promo, so that's kind of cool as well. As for the second attack, well, I told you this is basically Volcanion, and the attack is basically Volcanion's. For 2 psychic energy, so it's a little bit more expensive, but again, we expect that that's what Volcanion cost. You deal 30 damage. But if you have at least 5 energy in play, and it is energy, not psychic energy, so a slight difference there from Volcanion, you deal an extra 90 damage, which is 120 in total. It's really similar to Volcanion. Now, you need to have 1 extra energy out, but it's not limited to psychic, it's any energy, and you deal an extra 10 damage, and given how many Pokemon out there like Cresselia have 120 HP, this is genuinely relevant. And this is quite good. Essentially, this does what Volcanion did in terms of both attacks. Volcanion was good in the early game for getting energy on the board, but Volcanion then became a really good single prize attacker, either to finish off damaged Pokemon or to KO weaker Pokemon. And that is exactly what we've got with Cresselia here. Because if you've got 5 energy in play, and that is 5 energy total, not 5 in addition to these, 5 energy total, then you're doing 120 damage, which is enough to KO a lot of single prize Pokemon. Again, there's a bunch of 130, but it will get a lot. But then we look at something like Urshifu, and no, it's not going to get the VMAX, but it absolutely is going to get Urshifu V. In fact, any Pokemon V that's weak will go down here. This is a really, really good single prize attacker. In the same way that Volcanion was great in fire decks, this is exactly the same in psychic decks. Phenomenal turn 1 going second to accelerate energy, phenomenal as a single prize attacker, and between Cresselia's attack and the ability of Shadow Rider Calyrex, you are not going to struggle to have 5 energy in play. This is a 5 Wassy card all day long. It is phenomenal, and that is not the only new psychic trick we've actually got to have a little bit of a look at today. Because we've also got a lovely new item card that we need to have a little bit of a look at, which according to Antoine is called Fog Crystal. And this one is also going to sound very familiar indeed. It is an item card that reads, search your deck for either a psychic type basic Pokemon or a psychic energy and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Let's play the game. Has anybody noticed what card this is a psychic type version of? It's Netball. This is literally a psychic version of Netball. Netball search for a basic grass Pokemon or a grass energy and put it into your hand. This does exactly that, but for psychic. And in the same way that Cresselia is exactly as good as Volcanion, but in a different type of deck, this is exactly as good as Netball, but in a different type of deck in psychic rather than grass. And basically, this is phenomenal. Like, depending on the kind of deck you're playing, this is going to take precedence over Quick Ball. Now, don't get me wrong, Quick Ball can get non-psychic Pokemon, so you need to have a look at exactly how many psychic and non-psychic basics you're playing, because that is going to be a big part of the equation. But the fact of the matter is, Quick Ball makes you discard a card from your hand, which is not always something you're particularly keen to do. This doesn't, but later in the game it lets you search out an energy, and that's what's so amazing here. In the early game it searches out your basics, but when your basics are gone, like late game Quick Balls are often kind of trash cards, because by the time Quick Ball comes out, you've searched all your basics, so what you've essentially drawn into is an item card that searches out your basic Pokemon at a point in the game where you don't wish to search out your psychic Pokemon, or your basic psychic, and that is not a good thing. What we've got here is a card that will search out your basics in the early game, And then as you get later in the game, it searches out your energy. Bearing in mind, I've already told you about the ability on Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, which lets you attach your Psychic Energy and draw 2 cards. So you're going to need to have Psychic Energy in your hand in order to attach it, and then be able to draw those 2 cards. Well, now we've got another way of getting that Psychic Energy and getting it into our hand. If you are playing a Psychic deck like Calyrider or Shadow Rider Calyrider, Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, there we go. There are going to be some builds where you're playing too many non-psychic Pokemon, and it's not going to work as well as you'd like. But even in those builds, I see it as a 1 or 2 of. Like, generally what you're going to be doing is you're going to play 4 Quick Ball. That's pretty much going to be a given. Pretty much every deck is going to play 4 Quick Ball. And then there are going to be other cards that you're thinking about playing. Maybe it's Evolution Incense to get your Evolution cards. Maybe it's Great Ball to grab a Pokemon and hope it's the right one, etc. Well, this is either going to be one of your primary draw cards, because it can get you your basic and then later in the game get you a Psychic Energy, or it's going to be a very high-level support Pokemon draw card. It's going to be a 2 of, but it's going to be a really good 2 of. If you're not playing a Psychic deck, obviously you're not going to be playing this card. That would clearly be a little bit dumb. If you are playing a Psychic deck, this is a 5 Wassy card all day long. And I feel a little bit bad combining 2 5 Wassy cards into one video rather than giving them their own video to let them shine. But the fact of the matter is, these 2 cards together tell a story. And the story they tell very simply is, hey, those Psychic decks, yeah, they're a billion times better now than they were a minute ago. And I showed you Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. That is phenomenal. That is going to make Psychic decks better with its ability. And it is going to be its own deck because it's got a really good attack as well. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, these other tricks that I've shown you in today's video, they are also going to make Psychic decks just a whole bunch better. So get used to seeing Psychic Pokemon. And if you're in UK, US, Europe, etc., Battle Styles has just released, you're enjoying playing Urshifu, might want to enjoy it while you can, because Psychic Pokemon that are hitting you for weakness, they're coming, ladies and gentlemen. They are coming. But I want to know how good you think these tricks are going to make Psychic, whether you think Psychic is going to be the best type, etc. I want to know your thoughts. And oh look, there's a comment section. So go nuts, would ya? But be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.